by the power of Grayskull.
You are listening to Talk to Me.
All right, guys, let's welcome to the show Gus G of Firewind. A great, powerful new album, self-titled album, out May 15th. Gus G, how you doing, man?
I'm fine. How are you?
I am doing well. You know, it's funny, in the research for this interview, I sat down and I was like, you know what? I wonder what that G stands for. So I look it up, and not only does the G not stand for anything, Gus is not even your real name. You have an amazing name.
Yes.
Tell me your real actual name, man. It's amazing.
It's pretty unique, at least for an American that might attempt it. But for Greeks, it's a normal name. So yeah, my name is Konstantin. So Konstantinos. So, but for some reason, you know, I have family in the States. I have. I don't know if you know the story. Anyways, I'm going to tell you. I have. My uncle, my mom's brother, lives in Florida, and I remember when I was a kid, I was visiting him, and I said, "Hey, uncle, what's my name in English?" He said, "Oh, your name is Gus." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, that's your name." I said, "Why?" Because that's Gus. You know, that's the translation of your name in American is Gus. And then later on, I found out that was not correct at all, obviously. But somehow all the Greek immigrants that came to the States in the, 60s or 70s or 50s, I don't know, all the guys that were named Kostas, like me, they became Gus.
Nice.
So it's not correct, but I guess it's a Greek thing anyway. So there you have it.
Nice. Yeah, I was looking it up. I was like, man, Konstantinos, that's the name right there.
Yeah. Maybe that would have been a cool stage name as well, but yeah.
Yeah, probably too late now to change it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the new album, the self-titled album. Is there a reason behind it being self-titled? I know a lot of bands talk about, you know, a band's rebirth. You know, you self-titled the album. Anything like that?
It is exactly that. It is a rebirth for us. It's a new start, even though it's our 9th record. Usually you'll start with a self-titled album when it's your debut album, but we didn't do that back then. So, now it made sense more than ever because it was a big lineup change, a new singer, and we went from being a 5-piece to a 4-piece band. So, yeah. And also I think musically wise, this album is a little bit of a collection of a lot of the past elements that we've had, throughout our, history. So, this was the perfect timing to have an album with just our name. Yeah.
And this one's the first one to feature Herbie Leggins. Was it Leggins? Leggins?
Yeah, Leggins, yeah.
On vocals, how did you come across him, and how was he working out in the band?
It was through the record label, actually, AFM Records. I had asked them if they knew somebody who could help me to finish the record, basically, and they suggested Herbie, and yeah, they sent me some links. I checked him out. I was blown away by his vocal ability, and I realized that I heard of his ex-band, Sinbreed, like years ago, and I remember going, wow, what a great singer. He would be great in Firewind. So anyways, they put us in touch, and we started working almost right away. I sent him like a track to try out, like an older track, and then I tried writing something with him. I sent him one of my newer riffs. The first track we did was Devour. And from there on, it went pretty fast.
And with the writing process of something like this, are you a get in a room and jam kind of guy, or are you just taking advantage of technology and sending files back and forth?
Yeah, I've always done that. Always since the beginning, we were kind of we started out as a file sharing band. So I always do all this stuff here. I have a Pro Tools software here at home, like a home studio, and I just write stuff by myself. I'm used to like that. I program the drums, I play all the instruments, and then I'm used to working with the singer, setting files, and then getting back the vocal melodies and go back and forth. What we used to do in the past is like we would do all the demos like that, the pre-production. Then we would get in a room all together and jam everything and sort of do the final tweaks there. But on this record, it didn't really happen. I just wrote everything and we just went along like that.
Now, listening to the album, the one track that obviously jumps out as a little bit of a left field track to me was Overdrive. But man, what a classic sounding track. So cool sounding, and just tell me a little bit more about Overdrive.
Yeah. It was one of those outsider tracks, like I knew it was different. I knew it might not make the final cut, but still I liked it. I thought it was different because I'm a big fan of, this 80s Sabbath stuff like Heaven and Hell, Headless Cross, or Dio, Holy Diver. So it's like it's got that kind of vibe on there. And anyways, yeah, I sent it to Herbie and I said, look, man, this is not like the usual track that we would do, but maybe if it comes out cool vocally, maybe we can use this. And came up with a vocal line, and it was great. I thought, wow, fits his vibe so good. And I'm like, okay, we're definitely using that. So we're like, let's make this song kind of like type of anthem, like a heavy metal anthem. Sort of like, talking about the drive in us, to keep us going, and of course, like a thank you to the fans that support heavy metal in general. So it's that kind of a track, nothing really, not reinventing the wheel or anything, but just a nicely done classic heavy metal track.
Now, is it not sacrilege for you to do an 80s Sabbath sounding song, kind of an ode to Dio with your time in Ozzy?
No, why should it be? I mean, I love Ozzy and I love Dio. I mean,
right.
It's not like you have to pick sides or something,
No, I know it's all fun. One thing I did notice that you and I are roughly the same age. I'm about a year older than you, so I grew up, kind of in that new metal era with Korn and Limp Bizkit and everything else. And I'm kind of wondering what you were listening to, kind of growing up, and what kind of put you in this direction of almost music maybe a generation before us.
Yeah, that is correct. Like you say, it's for me was I don't know. I grew up listening to. 90s for me was early 90s was Metallica and Guns N' Roses on MTV, and then shortly after it was the grunge era. Mm-hmm. Obviously. And right around that time, actually I was a big Nirvana fan, and I liked that, when I was 13, 14, and because it was easy to play, just strumming on chords, and I was still a newbie on guitar too. So, and then somebody just gave me some classmate of mine gave me 2 cassettes. One of it was, actually it was 2 different friends of mine. One of them gave me a Black Sabbath tape, which was a life-changing thing. Like, wow. This is heavy metal, like I've never heard before. And then the other one was a cassette of Yngwie Malmsteen. So,
wow,
it was heavy metal, but it was done so differently. It was like all this technical stuff, and so it was like a big revelation to me. Like, so I went down that path basically, like that classic heavy metal. Yeah. So to me, when like you said, all the new metal stuff came, it didn't really appeal to me, like this stuff that had all this rap in there. And I liked singers who could actually sing melodies, and I like guitar players that had a great vibrato and, and technical abilities. And so I was into all that stuff as opposed to the more hip stuff of the time.
Yeah. Well, being a guitar shredder in the 90s was almost unheard of. Grunge and new metal both weren't known for guitar virtuosos. So, I know there was obviously stuff going on at the same time, but yeah, that time period almost killed the guitar solo for someone of our age to, dive into guitar as much as you did. That's a testament to what you did.
It is, and you have to think also back then, growing up in Greece, like getting records distributed here, like more underground stuff. It was very hard to get a hold of, like from smaller labels like Shrapnel Records, where they would put out all these guitar shredders and stuff. It was really hard to get a hold of all those albums here. This is pre-internet, like it's just, but I enjoyed the whole underground aspect of it. It was something cool about that. Like you were kind of like stick in your corner and like listen to your own little thing, and it was kind of sad but kind of cool at the same time that only I knew about this and maybe a couple of friends of mine more. That was it.
Yeah. Did you have a record store that you could go to that you eventually found or anything like that would stock some of this stuff for you?
There were a couple of shops, small record shops downtown that that was specializing in metal, and you would go and check out what came out every month, or they had some vinyl on sale, and that's where I picked up some vinyl of Racer X and Cacophony or Marty Friedman, stuff like that. A lot of guitar stuff that it was on sale. Like it was that you could get it like much cheaper than like a normal new heavy metal record that came out at the time. Like it was 1/3 of a price, and I would buy all those guitar records. Yeah.
Well, I could definitely see you're being a kid and reading the magazines and reading about Cacophony and reading about Racer X, and and then finally getting it after so many months or so many years type thing. It'd be much more of a gratification to finally get it than now, where you read about Racer X and you pull up your Spotify and it's right there for you. So I could see it being a much more fun, almost like a treasure hunt kind of thing as a kid.
Yeah, it was. You're right. Yeah, or like I would pick up the new Guitar World issue that was so you could only buy it in certain kiosks where they sold international press. And even like guitar publications back then, they didn't cover much of these guitar players. There was like this little page ads in there with the guitar records. You would see small ads, and you would try to figure out who is this new guitar player that Mike Varney discovered. And it was cool, man. It was, like you said, something to be said about that kind of those times, And then the VHS era, like you would buy all these guitar videos, like learn how to play all the licks from Paul Gilbert and Yngwie and all those guys. It was cool, Yeah.
Very good. And did you grow up learning, the Jake Ely stuff, the Randy Rhoads stuff, the Zakk Wylde stuff? So when it came time to audition for Ozzy, you already had it, or was that something you kind of had to go back and kind of relearn?
I knew it, of course. I was familiar with it. I didn't know all the songs. Some of it I knew how to play, but not like so much in detail. Of course, when you go into an audition like that, you prepare differently, for that. So, I did way more research. I searched on the internet all different versions from all different guitar players, go back to the original records and that kind of thing.
And in learning that type of stuff and having almost 3 distinct guitar styles to have to kind of replicate when you do the live show, did you go into it going, all right, well, this is a Jake Ely song, so I know that he likes to do, this type of arpeggio or, whatever guitar nerd term we're going to use. But I mean, you know that Jake likes to play like this and Randy likes to play like that. So you kind of understand what they're doing, or was it kind of a blank canvas on each song that you had to learn?
No, I already was familiar with every guitar player style, of course. These guys are some of my favorite players, and so I knew their sound and style, of course, and I knew what to go for in each song. Yeah.
And is it a human nature for you to check out the new Ozzy album and kind of go like, this is what I would have done here, and this is what I would have done there? Or are you able to listen to the new Ozzy and just listen to it as a new record?
I actually just listened to it, to be honest, as a fan. I did not think of, I would have done this and that here and stuff. Like I didn't get into that. I just actually listened to the songs for what they were. I took it for what it was, without really thinking, it would have had more guitar here or there, or I would have done that. I mean, honestly, the new record he made, it's not even really a heavy metal record like his previous stuff was. It's more of, it's a totally different record, It's still Ozzy, of course, but it's like a good mix of pop and like rock stuff, more like hard rock stuff. I didn't hear like it wasn't like the heavy stuff that you would hear from that Zach did and all that. So so I took it for what it is. It's Ozzy today collaborating with whoever who's collaborating, and did I like the songs? Yes, I did. Yeah, and that's all that matters to me.
Yeah, that was my. I think that's pretty much everyone's only complaint about the album was the lack of over the top guitar playing that an Ozzy record, is known for.
Yeah, that element was certainly missing from this record, but maybe I thought it was probably done on purpose like that, because I remember when I was there and we did all the guitar parts for Scream, and then like I went back home and they're like, well, we need you to come back and like add more guitar. And I was like, wow, there's already a lot of solos. They were like, well, we'll add more because that's like a thing for, that Ozzy's like known for, and having a lot of those little, not just like plain rhythm tracks, but having all those little guitar fills here and there. So I remember back then they asked me specifically to, do more fills and more lead breaks here and there. But I think this album was a bit more of a simplistic when it came to the guitar. And I think that was done for a reason, and I think the guy Andrew Watt, he's like a blues rock guitar player, so that so it's not like your typical metal guitar guy, you know what I mean? So, and I think he did a great job. He's a great songwriter. That guy is really talented.
And back to the new Firewind album, how did you guys have any discussions about delaying this because of the pandemic, the worldwide pandemic, or are you just going to trudge through and hope for the best?
Well, I was the guy who was worried about it most. I was calling the label every day, going like, "Are we still doing this? Are we?" But they thought it was we should continue. So, hey, at the end of the day, I had to trust them on this. I told them, well, if you think you can sell records through this time and we can continue to do this and as like business as usual, then okay, cool. For me, it's okay because I'm happy that we get to release this now, even though if we cannot tour, because we can still reach people at home, and I think people will be checking out music at home. They need to do that anyways. So, music is a good gateway to all the crazy stuff that we go through. It's a soundtrack of our lives. So, if nothing else, this will be the album of the coronavirus times.
I haven't thought about that. I haven't thought about, the bands releasing albums right now. And, you always attach an emotion or a feeling to an album. And so when people go back and 10, 15 years and put on the self-titled Firewind album, they're going to go back to thinking about, being quarantined in their house and how it was nice not to have to work for a couple of months.
Yeah, exactly. Probably will be thinking of that. Like, wow, this came out when this pandemic. We're like, what a fucking crazy time, right? So, yeah. Are you going to do? Why not?
Have you guys thought about doing stuff outside the box, like a lot of bands are doing? Doing some live guitar playthroughs on a YouTube channel and things like that.
Yeah, of course, we will be doing stuff like that. So, yeah, I will be filming some playthroughs, stuff like that. Yeah, for sure. Using our social media platforms these days is very. It's essential, it's very important to keep reaching our audience, our fans, and thank God that we have that. We have a following online, and we can reach our fans that way, and we'll get back to the normal touring thing when the world is back up and running.
And the how is Greece handling this? I know here in the United States, it's kind of state by state. How each different state is handling it. How is Greece handling it? What are you guys allowed to do at this point? Things like that.
Well, Greece reacted very quickly. Actually, thank God, we reacted very quickly, and we took extreme measures right away because Italy is right next to us, and it was incredibly tragic what happened to Italy. So we saw that, and I think our borders closed very quickly. Quarantine mode right away. We've been at home for over a month now. So, yeah, and we've had very few cases. I think in total, all the cases we have in total is, I think as of today, around 2,500 people, and maybe 120 people died.
Oh wow!
And they were all like very old people. With 95% of them was most like they already had a
pre-existing.
Condition. Yeah. So, I mean, I think yesterday nobody died. Yesterday was the first day that nobody died from this. Every day, they announce how many people died in the last 24 hours. But we're still on lockdown. We're still on quarantine. But I think from next week, they're probably going to announce some new measures, like, slightly opening up some businesses again and trying to find a way to get back to normal. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, not to get too way into the political side of it, but I mean, Greece's economy for a while took a big hit, and you definitely don't need another big hit.
Oh yeah, we did take a big hit, and just when you think you're getting out of that, then boom, this happens. So I think things will need to start functioning sooner or later here, because we're a small country with a small economy, and we won't be able to go through this for too long like that. So. But things are looking better. But you have to be careful about this as well, because you have to consider about the second wave of the virus and all those things.
Oh yeah.
So it's hard to predict anything these days.
Right. Yeah. I mean, normally at this time of the interview, you always ask, what are your touring plans? What's the rest of 2020 look like? And almost at that time, I mean, at this time, you can't even ask that question anymore. You're like,
no,
well, we've got some touring plans in place, but those might get canceled too. So.
Yeah, even 2021, I don't know what's happening. Like, I mean, sure, there's been talks about, we're going to postpone this U.S. tour we were supposed to do. Is this going to happen even next year? I don't know. I mean, our business, I think, is going to be the last one that's going to go back on track, because it's based on public gatherings, like people in a room, a lot of people in a room, in a venue, small or big, doesn't matter, or festival.
Right.
So I think this is going to be the last thing that comes back. So some people are even predicting like 2022. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, when we tour again, maybe next spring, maybe not.
Yeah, it's a mess, man. It's hopefully we'll get all this back together, back to normal soon. And then once we get all that back together, then you guys can get back on the road and start promoting the self-titled Firewind album, or if it's a year or two, maybe it's the next album you guys are going to support.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe by this time next year we have a new batch of songs recorded. We'll see how the next months play out. It's funny, somebody was just asking me, like, what's the first thing you're going to do when this is over? I'm like, book a tour, I guess.
Right.
Absolutely. That's the first thing.
Well, Gus G, man, thanks for taking the time today. And like we said, the new Firewind album out May 15th, 2020. Make sure you're checking it out wherever you get your music legally. And once again, Gus G, man, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
All right, man. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.